bear with me 1 second. Really annoying fly. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jeddah Corniche Circuit. We've had really feel a thrilling qualifying, would you say? I think Max Verstappen again on pole position, another scintillating lap, probably up there with that one we saw in Suzuka a few weeks ago. Lando Norris on the other hand, an effing idiot for putting his car into the wall at turn 5 and starting from 10th, so another bad display from him in qualifying. Let's start though with Max, let's start with the positives. I mentioned Suzuka there. Is it up there again, coming here? I know the gaps were smaller here when we've seen him in free practice, but to put it in there like he has done again, it's outstanding really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think Suzuka's probably ranking slightly higher because, as you say, the gap was smaller and it looked bigger than it was in practice. But yeah, what a lap again. To beat Piastri, again, McLaren will be slightly disappointed with that. Not as much as with Lando's lap, which we can talk about in a second, but I mean, for somebody that has, rung the alarm bells, he is delivering the goods, so he can go to the team and say, I'm doing everything I can. Yeah. Make the car better over race distance, and we're there again.
Yeah, we on our report on motorsport.com, we said, crisis, what crisis? Me and you have stood here and sat down there both nights so far. We've been here and said, look, this is what's happening at Red Bull today. This is what's being said about Max or his future or these talks and everything like that. All he did is go out there and talk on the track, wasn't it?
Yeah, there is a risk in that, in pretending there is no problem, because he's making it sort of disappear a bit. Yeah, but it's still there. So, so in a way, Red Bull won't be getting carried away with it because they know they have to improve the car quite a bit, especially in race trim, because you can't keep relying on Max magic every time to bail you out, and it will still be difficult for him to win the race against Piastri tomorrow.
Will he be looking, it's an obvious thing to say, but if he can get away and lead like he did in Suzuka, will he be able to hold him back? I mean, I suppose the argument is, A, is it hard to pass around here? And B, we've seen that clear air rules at the moment, haven't we? So there are two things, I suppose, potentially working in for Max's favour. Absolutely.
It will be a lot easier to pass than in Suzuka. It won't be extremely easy. There are 3 DRS zones and we've got long straights here, but it doesn't mean it'll be a walk in the park either. But you're still looking at a race similar to similar to Bahrain, I should say, where rear tyre wear is going to be quite limiting, and that is where McLaren can make the difference. If they can keep their rear tyres alive a little bit better, then it will be really hard for Max Verstappen to resist Piastri, and then you can look at do undercut, which is not the most powerful here, but you can do it, or do we just stay out longer?
I think we need to talk about as well, George Russell mentioned it, Max even touched on it himself, the fact he did 2 runs in that Q3 session, even with Lando's crash, and he put that down to the team, not his call, and that's essentially what he thinks put him on pole position. So it's good that they're thinking outside the box as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. If you feel like you don't have the quickest car, and you're going to pour over everything else, what can we do better, what can we do differently compared to McLaren? And it seems like that works this time.
McLaren is an interesting one, isn't it? Because everywhere we go, we say they're the quickest car. Everyone here, still in the paddock, every Thursday when you talk to the media, say, look, they're I think the quote from George was head and shoulders. Charles Leclerc was saying they're 3/10 clear of everyone else. Is it just Max brilliance, or are they struggling to get as much out of that car? Both drivers technically struggling to get as much out of it as it could give them.
Potentially, yes. It's also in everybody's interest to pile the pressure on McLaren, saying they are untouchable when they're maybe not. By all accounts, they should have been on pole every single race this year and won it. That is a reality. Yeah. But it's also not like they're just breezing 201 to every race easily, and nobody else is in the picture. George Russell's very quick, very consistent this season. I haven't spoken about him as much, maybe as we should have. Max is there. So yes, McLaren should be ahead by more than they are, but it's also not like they're just dominating like Red Bull used to do.
Yeah, well, that's a nice thing. That's the roundabout, isn't it? That we used to complain. Well, not everyone did, but it used to be that Max was the one dominating. Yes. Now he's the one who's actually stopping another team taking over that mantle.
Yeah, and if you do make a mistake, you get punished, which is what we want to see as well.
Yeah, especially at this level. And let's talk about that mistake we mentioned at the top. An effing idiot is what Lando Norris called himself. We spoke to him in the pen, and I actually said to him, "Do you stick by what you called yourself under your helmet?" And he said, "I can't remember what I called myself." And I repeated back to him now what I won't repeat here for the benefit of our video editor, but he said, look, that's fair, I stick by that, I know what went wrong. But one thing he was pains to point out was he didn't link that to the issues he brought here. He said, look, it was completely separate. This crash at turn 5 wasn't because of a confidence thing or his issues with the car or anything like that. So actually, whilst he was frustrated, he wasn't desolate. Do you know what I mean? He knows it's fairly difficult from 10th. I think he's going to need a good start, a legal start as well, which he didn't have last week. So it's going to be a long evening in hot, tricky conditions for Lando Norris tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
You talked to Andrea Stella as well, Phil, and what did he have to say about what happened with Lando and things like that?
Yeah, so I put that to him as well in terms of, okay, this seems like the same narrative as Bahrain as he's in the hole, but it really is not the same because he seemed a lot more confident in the car.
Yeah.
And even until Q2, he seemed as quick, if not quicker than Oscar. They were very closely matched. So it's very easy to say, it's Lando again. Is very miserable in the car, but it's better now.
Yeah.
The one thing that Andrea Stella also said is, up to 99% of the car, it's fine, but then chasing that final percent is where the car still does stuff that Lando isn't expecting.
Yeah.
And that is where it has a potential to go wrong. And he also said something else that was quite interesting in that these cars are now so quick, the quickest cars ever. We got another track record here.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have time to think.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like, either you do what the car does and what you think the car is going to do, or it's going to surprise you because you don't have the time to react to something different than it's doing.
Yeah.
So it's on the knife edge, especially around here where the walls are so close, and he got caught out.
But there are 8 other teams. Let's go to Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is 4th, but he was really unhappy with that. He said, look, I got everything out of this car that I could, and that's all it had to give us. And, that's progress, but it's not enough progress for him. Still quite a good performance when you compare it to Lewis Hamilton, who yesterday said, look, if I get into the top 10, I'm happy. He just sneaked past Alex Albon to get into Q3. I think it was 7 thousandths of a second or something like that. And when he got there, flattered to deceive again, really, didn't he?
Yeah. And there are some parallels with Lando Norris. You go to the limit in qualifying, 1 lap pace, absolute limit of the car, and Lewis isn't feeling it. He isn't getting what the car, he isn't getting from the car what he wants from it.
Yeah.
And he's struggling with the tyres to get them in the right window, and it's just it's just missing, just something missing, and you see that with a lot of drivers actually that are moving teams. Or
that was good. That was going to be our next point, and it is actually the man who lost his seat to Lewis that I was going to mention, Carlos Sainz. Now he seems to be the one who is clicked for it. It seems to have clicked for him, doesn't it? He was 8th in qualifying last week, struggled in the race. He's 6th this week, which is his best since he came to Williams. Out-qualified Alex Albon again. Alex Albon not used to being out-qualified by his Williams teammates. Albon interestingly said, look, maybe we were overconfident that we were going to get this car into Q3, so the runs they did in Q2 didn't really match up, which is quite interesting. Carlos said, last week maybe I got caught out by fighting with cars that I actually don't really have a fight with, so he might play the long game tomorrow. Maybe that means, look, I'll finish 8th, but finishing 8th is better than a DNF having been tagged by Yuki Tsunoda and ruining your tyres up against Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Anyone else that we think we need to talk about?
Ferrari, at the start of the season, were quietly confident that they could be in and amongst it, second best team perhaps. There was some potential in China as well, with Lewis going pole to flag in the sprint. So they are quite disappointed that they're not there, and they've brought an upgrade as well. It has worked, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
So it's not matching their expectations before the season by any means.
Right, after our stellar predictions of qualifying, well, I think we said McLaren 1-2.
Yeah, 1-2.
What happens tomorrow? Does Max hang on for a win, or do we see Oscar? Or for me, I think Oscar might win tomorrow. I think he might beat him off the line, or they might do something clever with, as you were saying, the undercut potentially. Yeah. I just think the gaps are close here than they were in Suzuka. So yeah, for me, it's a Piastri win with maybe Verstappen and Russell. Again, we've hardly mentioned George Russell yet. Another session for him. What do you think?
I think you've got the podium there. Piastri probably should win this race if all goes well, and then can Verstappen keep Russell behind? It's hard to tell. It really depends on who gets clear air and who gets the tyres to work. We've seen from Max and from Red Bull that they're still quite hesitant about their long run potential. The car starts sliding a lot, which chews the tyres. So it's hard to tell.
Do you think, and it's not a conversation for today, but maybe tomorrow evening, if Piastri wins that race, we might be standing here tomorrow asking when we might see papaya rules come back in?
Very early, but I know you love some papaya rules.
It's my favourite fruit.
Yeah.
Is it a fruit? It's
Yeah.
fruit, isn't it? Yeah. You can tell how healthy I am.
Back in my country. It is.
We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we will be here after the race to bring you what happens with Max Verstappen from pole. Can Lando Norris put in a recovery drive here at the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix? Join us then.